Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
All right, listeners, welcome back to another episode number 62 of A Tale of Two Hygienists. This is Andrew.
This is Michelle. See how that works, Andrew? When as soon as you say one name, the other person says their name. I don't know.
I don't understand the logic behind any of that.
Oh, so how was your week since we last talked?
Nothing really happened. Just, something did happen.
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't talk too much about it, but because it was like during one of our little, so with the state, I'm not really on the board. I'm on the committee for dental hygiene.
Right.
And so I'm the chair of this committee. And something that really happened that I think that would be beneficial to everyone to know is that when you sit on the state in any capacity, don't worry about being bullied by other people. So, for instance, and again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but part of the responsibilities that we have is to evaluate all the different testing agencies that are out there, see which ones come close enough to what we want to accept into our state, and say yes or no, and then tell them yes or no based on what they could do to improve and things like that. So we had some things on the agenda, and we'd already done a vote last year for this particular one, and it didn't pass. So they wanted some clarification, and it wasn't where we wanted them to be. And we tried to nicely tell them that, and I got the death stare by this lady. Just hates me, and I'm just like I'm not really. I don't care. I do, but I don't. Like, this is for my state. This is for my, the public in my state that's important. So
I give you the death stare all the time, so you should be used to it.
It actually helped.
Oh.
Knowing that people hate me like you have thickened my skin.
I knew I was in your life for a reason. Thicken your skin.
No, you know how I really want to please people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a people pleaser. I want people to be happy and nice, and I want everyone to be pretty chill, but it's just that.
But I think you're also equal parts. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. Like, if you're not going to meet me halfway, then I'm just to say screw you. Like, if you don't want to be in this conversation with me, then no.
Nice. Well.
So, anyways,
interesting.
Yeah. So that was fun and interesting and kind of weird, but I enjoyed it.
Well, good.
I had a really, really good chat with some of our state association leadership as well.
Nice. That
I didn't expect to have that productive of a conversation with them, just because, how I think we both kind of feel about the ADHA right now. And I really like that they listen, and I really like that they are
positive.
Willing to be progressive. And I've just been very impressed with this leadership term. They've actually reached out to me multiple times since they kind of took over, and it's not, hey, sign up and be a member, and then we just want your dues. It's a, hey, what can we do to make the profession better? What can we do to elevate all of our abilities? And so it's been really good, productive talks. So I'm really happy with the way things are going in the state right now. So.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah.
I was in Louisiana, New Orleans again, for the ICOI Implant Congress, or International Congress of Oral Implantologists meeting, which is also auxiliary portion of it. And I was there with Edie Gibson and Susan Wingrove and Kathy Carlson. I love all those ladies. And Siobhan Healy was there. So we all had... and Melissa.
Do your homework?
So she actually just friend requested me, so now you can friend request her.
Such bullcrap. Such bullcrap.
I was there with her all weekend.
You were sent there with one task.
I'll text her
and you
right
did
now.
Not do it.
I didn't. It was a rough weekend. I was in New Orleans, but I've met. I did actually I think you and I both probably had very good weeks of networking. I met some really great people, but one dentist who Siobhan and I went to dinner with, who is hilarious, Southern Louisiana dentist, but loves hygienist and thinks people are so stupid not to utilize us to a fuller capacity. And you give him a bourbon and he'll tell you just how stupid you are. But he couldn't have been funnier and great. And so it was a really good, fun weekend in New Orleans. I was going there for some other reason though, but
it was for like the dunk contest for the NBA, right?
OMG.
That's really what you went for.
I don't know why these meetings hate exhibitors. And I just don't. They create these meetings that have like they're in. I know why they do it. They want people to come. Like, let's go to New Orleans during Mardi Gras. Everybody's going to want to come. Well, you know what? One, that makes a hotel stupid expensive. That means they book up extremely fast, and it's impossible to get in and out of it. And then people are so excited to be in that city that they actually don't spend time on the exhibit floor or go into the meetings as much as they really should. So it's kind of stupid, but I get why they're doing it. But the reality is, they might get the money, but those people aren't coming to the courses and going to the exhibit hall. So to leave, they had blocked off Canal Street. So Siobhan and I, because we went to the airport together, she and I had to walk like 4 or 5 blocks just to get to the Uber that was trying to get to us. And then it was like, I think it took Melissa 45 minutes just to get out of the city to get to the airport.
Oh my gosh.
So you had the NBA All-Star thing, you had Mardi Gras, and you had this dental conference. All in the same damn spot. I was like, it was great. I mean, it was fun. It was great. We did walk Bourbon Street one quick time, but I mean, I was like this. I love New Orleans, but it was just too much. It was too much happening, and they always do that. Whatever. That's my beef. That's my beef with these meetings sometimes. Or they do it back to back.
Well, that's part of their draw, though, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I get it, but also it encourages people not to go to the meeting, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
that's
everybody
true.
wants to go out to Mardi Gras and see the parades and all that fun stuff, not sit in a dental conference and walk the exhibit floor, which is, what needs to be done because the exhibitors are pretty much paying for that show.
Isn't that kind of the problem with having them in Vegas, too?
Yes.
Like, there's just so much to do in Vegas that people just get distracted or get drunk and don't show up to
remember that one meeting
morning.
I did last year and like 20 hygienists showed up because I was speaking at like 8:30 a.m. in Vegas. And then like 10 o'clock rolls around and people are like strolling in. And I was like, yeah, nobody has meetings at 8:30 a.m. in Vegas. That's just dumb. But whatever.
I kind of expected that, like on the cruise last year, though. To be honest,
I did
just
too.
Because the cruise was so
early. That's 7 a.m.
Yeah, but there was actually quite a few people there, and sure, there were some stragglers that kind of came in a little bit later, but it was actually a pretty decent one.
Yeah, I was actually impressed with that too. Today, did you want to mention anything about some of the Facebook posts? Like maybe the one talking about why would a guy hygienist go into a female profession?
I mean, I don't really have an opinion on it. It was very weird because, it was, okay, are there guy hygienists out there? And then all of a sudden everyone kind of comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, I'm right here. Hey, I'm right here. And then it was like, oh, you're hot. Oh, let's see all these really sexy guy hygienists. Show us your picture with your smile. And I'm just like, here's a picture of me and my kid.
Oh, God, you gotta love freaking Lighthearted. That was on Lighthearted, right?
Was that Lighthearted or was that... I think that was Andy RDH, I think.
If it was, I would be shocked.
I could...
Because that's normally some nonsense you hear on Lighthearted. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. So I'm going to give a little quick shout out to Eva Masters that is always on.
I saw her comment. That was good.
So what's so funny is that...
we do like her.
I see Eva's comments sometimes, and it's literally what I would have wrote. I almost want to just like give her like a virtual high five.
2 peas in the pod.
I want to give her a virtual high five. And then, I mean, I've gotten a lot better. I don't write it because I have to be tepe and be, a professional.
Sure.
But so she does it for me, and I don't even have to say, "Hey, say this for me." She just says it. So Eva, we're the same personality on these, saying the same thing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like her a lot too. Even though she doesn't agree with me on the perio debate.
She does not.
I think I still like her. I know. But that's okay.
Oh, it's so funny because I actually had some conversations about perio stuff this week. We need to talk about that when we go to, because we're going to Chicago midwinter this week.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, let's transition to midwinter. Do you have a preference on being seen with me with my crazy hair? Like Allison really, she's not backing down. She really does not give a crap.
Your
like,
hair is a little out of control, but
do whatever I want.
I really don't care. I have no.
So you're like Allison.
Yeah.
I just don't want to embarrass you or the brand of A Tale of Two Hygienists with
the brand that is ATOTH.
ATOTH.
God, if we could have only found a way to put another O in there, and we could have been A-tooth.
Oh, no.
We're not smart branders.
Tale of other two hygienists. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
A tale of two.
No, but
what's an adjective with an O?
A tale of other.
No, like
a tale of. We need two.
Tale
anyways.
of.
So.
I'll think about that. I'll go through my thesaurus on my phone.
Hey, it's too late. We're not.
Yeah, we can't
changing
rebrand
things
it
again. You just bought a bunch of stuff too. So like,
we're gonna be all professional. Like, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Where are we setting that up?
Wherever we
Just
decide
wherever
to
we end up setting up.
Put it up right next to our makeshift. Okay. I mean, we can't look too professional since we literally just pick a corner of a random place.
Yeah. Speaking of which, hopefully we have an inside. Real quick shout out to Dr. Bolden. She's trying to help us find some stuff. She says not to call her doctor. She's a lot like Dr. B, like our interview today, our part 2. She's like, don't call me doctor. I'm like, I kind of have to call you doctor, but it's Dr. Kim Bolden, and she's from Chicago. She's really cool.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Shout out to her for helping us, at least giving us contact of who to look up, and yeah, so it'll be good to see her. Yeah, hopefully we'll have to be in the corner this time.
So today we have the second part of Dr. B's interview, and I sent Dr. B an email or a Facebook message last night and said, I'm so sorry that I'm the most combative person on the face of the earth, and I never let you finish sentences. So, Dr. B, I'm so sorry that he said, no, don't worry. It was a great interview. I had a good time, and I said, I blame it on the wine. He's like, everything was better with wine. I was like, true story. However, I am really sorry that I never let you finish anything, and I haven't listened to the second half, so I fear for what's about to come. But I also listened to...
Well, this one does get kind of combative, too, but it's not like necessarily just you. Yeah, it's not bad, but I think it'll be at least interesting.
Damn it. I'm sorry, Dr. B. He couldn't be the nicest human being, and I'm like yelling at him.
I know.
So I just listened to another one. I encourage our listeners to, of course, listen to this interview, the last part of it, but also he did a interview on tongue tie and ankyloglossia. Excellent. Excellent. And I don't see kids, but, I see moms that are about to have babies or new moms, and I think it's important information. And this, I forget her name. She's a doctor from Mississippi, but she did an excellent interview, and it was really very informative. So I highly suggest you go check out The Passionate Dentist as well, and listen to that interview, or all of them, with Dr. B.
Yeah,
or all of them. So enjoy episode 62, part 2, with Dr. B.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah?
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
Where we talk about cleansability, and because hygiene seems to get the trickle-down crap, and that's terrible to say, but in a lot of cases... we are getting where the surgeon didn't talk to the restorative dentist, and now we have to maintain it, but the patient can't maintain this. How do we function with that?
you do the best you can.
Right.
So
Sir, can we remove this every time we see this patient?
It's not a good idea.
Right? Because we have screws.
Well, because we have screws and we have to have seals on top of that, and you have to
everything.
torque it, and every 2 or 3 times you remove the entire prosthesis. That's after it's been torqued, you need to change the screws. Each one of those screws is like $30.
And it's a cost to the patient?
So, and if they have all on 6, all on 4, that means it's 10
Expensive.
screws. That's $300 every year just in screws.
Right.
Add that to the time it takes to remove the screws, remove the prosthesis, put it in the ultrasonic, clean it up really good, clean around the implants as best as you can, put everything back on, put new screws on, put the seals on. That's like an hour and a half procedure.
At least,
and so what happens is once a year you tend to charge the patient $600 to $1,000 just for a hygiene visit because it took so much time. And that's not. And so it's so.
No. So my question
we're
is,
having a conversation here because honestly, the solution is not. I don't think
it's not across the board. It's not a recipe.
We can't solve it here. What we're doing is we have hygienists around the country, around the world, listening to all this. And the thing about you hygienists, you guys are amazing. Okay, hygienists.
Dr.
love it.
V.
I love it.
No. I'll tell you why.
Thank
It's because patients trust you guys more than they trust us dentists because they know we own the
Say that one more
practices.
time for us.
Patients,
I'm not gonna make it.
patients
No,
trust
we're good.
hygienists more than they trust dentists because you guys are not the owners of the practice. You have no vested interest in whether the patient gets done something or not. A lot of times a dentist will come in and then we'll look in the patient's mouth and say, okay, you get cavities here, here, and here, and here, and we need to crown this and onlay that, and we just walk out of the room. Mm-hmm. And the patient turns over to you and says, do I really need all those things? Mm-hmm. How often does that happen? That happens all the time. It happens in my practice, and I think my patients all trust me. They'll tell my assistant to ask them these questions. So they trust you guys. So you guys have a very, very important role. Hygienist is not just about removing calculus and plaque and oral. It's about connecting with the patients, inspiring the patients, giving them good news, helping them with the bad stuff. I mean, there's so much more to it than that. To be honest, if you guys were gone, I'd quit dentistry. I can't do this stuff. I can't do what you guys can do.
Several round to it is, how can hygienists be more involved in the treatment planning process prior to the placement of implants? And what kind of conversations can we have with our patients that are about to go into that fixed, non-removable appliance? And how can we have that conversation with you?
And so the best thing you can do is actually have a conversation with a dentist. Okay, I know this is going to sound a little difficult because some people don't feel comfortable talking to the dentist and say, hey, Dr. Smith, or not before. Hey, Dr. Smith, let's say, before you, or I'm trying to organize my thoughts.
I know, you have to think about it, right?
We need to talk a little bit about, you can say, Dr. Smith, we need to talk a little bit about oral hygiene. I know you're restoring all these cases. Can you think about the hygiene of these patients? Because I'm having trouble cleaning some of these things because of this, and this.
Right.
Can you please put this into consideration when you're restoring the cases? And if the doctor comes back, doctors are human beings too. We're not perfect. We got all kinds of problems. So when the patient comes back with a better restoration that's more cleansable than the other patients, you can say that was a perfect restoration. The patient can can clean this better. Or the patient comes to your operatory. They have this massive ridge overlap, and they don't have a high smile. You can ask the dentist saying, can you please trim away some of this tissue?
A little bit, yeah.
But the problem is you may not have that kind of a good relationship with your employer.
Yeah.
See, I have
create that.
You can't.
Well, we go.
See,
It's like there's so many steps in that.
So I mean, you can ask and you can test the water by asking your dentist, your employer, whether, and if they say absolutely not, you're a hygienist, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, then you reevaluate, saying, do I want to continue working for this guy? Or do I want to continue? I don't know. But that's the battle. That's your battle. You're the hygienist, not me.
I know. But I mean, it's kind of like why
here.
you come to these meetings, though, is to learn how to function in a relationship with a dentist so that it's not a bad marriage. Where you're,
it's not a marriage.
Sometimes feels like it, though,
I know
right?
it does.
I think that's the importance of the hygienist. We as hygienists in a community need to learn these soft skills to have these relationships.
We do.
But-
We do. And I think it's a conversation that you have to have with your dentist, and you have to be able to feel like you're co-therapist in this.
Sure. And you are. And if your dentist, if your employer is a good dentist who understands something about patient communication, he will value the fact, or I'm sorry, he or she will value the fact
Good catch.
that you spend more time with the patients, connect more with the patients than they do, and they should listen to you. Now, granted, I don't listen to everything my hygienists tell me, but I listen to what they're saying because, but hey, honestly, I wasn't always like this. I mean,
What got you to get this way? And what was it like before? Like, paint that picture.
I was more technical. I just cared about that hole that was in a tooth. I just wanted to drill it out and put some plastic in there. I mean, I just wanted to.
But you progressed, and
Yeah, well, because
You're
I wanted to
just-
care. I wanted to create the kind of practice that I have right now, and I was just literally on this table that we're standing on right now. Me, my hygienist, and her husband right here. We're sitting here saying, okay, how can I take my practice even to the higher level? We're having this conversation. I mean, I feel like my
nice.
practice is stalled. If there's 5 levels to a practice, I'm like at level 4. I've been stuck in level 4 for the last 7 years. I want to go to level 5. What? And then she's like, well, what does level 5 mean to you? So we're literally having this conversation because some people in this course, I don't want to be like them. I mean, some of these lecturers in here, I mean, it works for them. Hallelujah. Let them do what they... I don't want to be
bring
just
this up
like them.
tomorrow,
I do
actually.
not want to be like these practitioners in here, and they owning 18 different practices, and I don't know. I just don't want... I want the little bistro French kind of restaurant kind of match that to, it's just... That's the kind of practice that I want.
think that's a good point that you bring up is that you sat down with your hygienist, and the two of you as people who treat a patient together came up with an idea. Even though it's your practice, it's your license, it's your business.
Yeah, but she's vested in it. She's been my hygienist for 12 years now. I mean, she was there from day one.
My question then is, what brings you to that level of trust to her? Did you think she was just... So this is the other thing, is I don't think a lot of dentists appreciate hygienist knowledge and the school that we actually went through and the education level.
Now you're
that
stepping
we went
all
through.
over our lecture tomorrow.
I am.
Make him come and listen to it first.
I am. I
So,
am kind of giving it away.
it's...
But
But see, your magic, honestly, and I keep bringing this back, is not necessarily your knowledge as much as your availability and your connection to the patient. That is your magic.
Your opportunity for connection.
Yes, it's not anybody can learn to scrape off tartar off
that's not
teeth.
it. Yeah.
Okay, it's
Because,
not about that.
Monkeys
It's about.
can do that any day of the week.
I
I
don't
teach
know.
it.
I'm not sure if I want a monkey to clean my teeth. But
I
you know
teach
what
it.
I mean.
Sometimes a
It
monkey will
can
steal your teeth better than-
possibly happen.
But just understand, it's not about that. So the truth of the matter is, it's about you. You guys have a magical position in the office, and that is patients listen to you and trust you, and they spend an hour with you. Hopefully an hour. I don't know. Some practice 20 minutes, I guess.
You're
but
so funny.
but in my
You're
practice,
being-
my hygienists get 1 hour with every patient, and or if it's a scaling and root planing, they'll get an hour and a half for half the mouth. But if they want more, they can get more. I'll let them decide.
That's the way it should be.
You're like, so if you could give anesthesia in North Carolina, I would come be your hygienist.
Why? I can give
Because
anesthesia.
she likes what you have to say.
But she wants to be able to give it.
I want to give anesthesia. I'm really good at it.
I won't tell. You can come over and just give anesthesia.
She's really good with her infiltration.
Because really, it's so stupid for me to like.
Nobody is gonna hear
like
this,
on this
right?
side I can, but I jump over here and I can't. I can't over here. I can't over here.
Really, you're saying?
I can.
Infiltrations.
You can
Listen.
infiltrate.
I know you. Blah blah blah.
You and me.
This is funny. Like today, she's like, I can get infiltrations, but not blocks. I say, well, if you move that instrument a quarter of an inch more, it'll be
That's
a
why
block.
I have
but
no
you can
problem
just
with giving my anesthesia.
Can we just call it an infoblock?
infoblock. Whoops! I accidentally infiltrated the inferior alveolar nerve.
Oopsie.
Oops. I
Funny when that
infiltrated.
happens. Your whole face just droops to the side.
Or you can
AIA.
you can give an inferior alveolar block, but then give a mental, and then nobody can prove the fact that you didn't give a block.
Come at me.
You can
prove
say
it.
no. Well, if they say, "Well, you gave a block," it's like, no, the lip is numb because I gave a mental infiltration.
I like
I
how you're rolling there.
Dr. B, we can hang out with you any
I'm
day.
about to lose my dental license. Really quick, aren't I?
No.
we
Actually,
don't have
you
any
should.
listeners, so it's fine.
It's fine.
My name is John Smith, and my practice is in Iowa.
Iowa.
My name is not Bilal Saib. in
We've
Chapel
kept you a
Hill.
really long time, actually, and we're so happy. Like we actually got you on here.
We're gonna see him again. We'll do this another time. This is good.
Do you want to do this again, or
Ah,
did I
this is
scare you
fun.
away with all of
No,
my
why?
intense conversation
Why?
about implants?
I can
He
take care of
tells-
it. Like, I'm a black belt.
tells
I
me
can
I'm
protect
mean.
myself.
Intense, huh?
No, she's
You're not right now because
You're not mean.
you've had like 8 glasses of wine, so now you're super nice.
There is
Maybe.
truth to that. There is a smirk.
Is she not
On your
nice?
face.
Is that what
She's usually not very nice.
Really?
That's not true.
That's not
She's usually a horrible human being.
That's why you're.
That's why I'm always on wine. On wine, like I'm on
so
heroin.
we got the
I'm
good
on
cop,
wine.
bad cop thing going on here. Is that what this is?
Yes.
Bad cop, worse cop. I don't know. I don't think there's any good to this podcast.
I'm on like Pluto cop.
Ah, that's
my
so
own
true.
All right.
But
well,
we
thank you
appreciate
so
your
much.
time.
Sure.
We really, really, really
Doing
do.
This was fun. This was one of the most fun interviews I've done. I usually
Yes.
don't drink a glass of wine
Yes.
while I'm doing it, so this was fun.
High five, Andrew.
Nice.
Woo!
I'll take it.
We get
How about
most
that? Can I
fun.
get a high five?
Absolutely.
Yes.
There you go.
Hells
Thanks,
yeah.
doctor.
You guys slow
Yeah,
down.
I'm intense. I'm
just-
sorry
you
about
are.
that.
You
I'm sorry
you
about
hurt
that.
my hand, man. These are my money makers.
All right, I'm stopping it.
Listeners, I want to tell you a story. A story I found on the web, which makes this Scaling the Web with Andrew.
For this week on Scaling the Web with Andrew, I have a very controversial one.
Ooh, I likey.
One that I found. Yeah, it was actually published just recently on February 6th, 2017. And I've seen it kind of floating around. It's on 5 routine things we do in
Oh,
the dental
you're
profession
such a-
that do not make
I
sense.
was wondering why you were smirking over there.
So funny. Written by one Brenda.
All right,
Brenda
come on.
Strange.
I
is
am
what it-
so
is what it
editing
was.
that out. I will punch you.
You're not.
God.
By one B. Michelle Strange.
If anybody ever comes up to me and calls me my mother's name, we are immediately defriending. Or you're done, and I will cut you.
You're probably not friends with them anyways. So
That's probably true. Do you think
Hey,
it was
and quit jumping all
controversial?
over I think you thought it was going to be controversial.
I
and
did,
everyone-
actually.
Here, okay. So let me tell our listeners what I like on my side of things, like kind of what I'm seeing. And so Michelle and I sure we're friends. We talk most days, I would say. I mean, unless you're traveling,
much.
then we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really ever talk about like the side projects that you do. So like when this article came out, like you and I didn't talk about it beforehand. I had no idea it was coming out, and then I saw it and I said something to you, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what do you think? You know, does this sound controversial?" And then I said, "No, it looks fine." And then all of my friends, my dentist friends, started reposting it, or I saw it in, I think it was the Colorado
Really?
Dental Hygienists Association thing. And people have been reposting it a lot. Like this one's gotten actually quite a bit of traction,
Holy
more so
crap.
than maybe some of your other ones. But
Yeah.
none of them were to the point where people were just like getting upset or angry or anything like that. They were just saying, "I really like this one. I really like this one. This is something that we need to think about, especially number one, telling people to floss." So
Where
again,
are
this
you
is
seeing these
5 things
things?
that we
God,
do.
I never saw any of these comments.
They're all over Facebook.
Jeez.
All over Facebook. It's being reposted. So these are 5 routine things that we do in the dental profession that don't make sense. We keep telling people to floss. Now, this is one thing that we talked about a lot on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So interdental cleaning and different ways of doing that rather than just saying, "Hey, go floss," because no one ever does it anyways. But I also like your number 3 that you put on there, and also number 5. So the odd ones are my favorite ones. Let me say number 2 real quick is placing implants in patients who cannot manage to clean their natural teeth, which is something that you and Dr. Abia were talking about on this episode and also the last episode. So that was pretty good timing for that. Number 3 is putting a little emphasis on the products in the patient's goodie bag. And I know this is a huge pet peeve of yours.
It is.
Huge.
Which is funny because I didn't realize it was until I started traveling and hearing everybody what they do, and nobody cares. It's just, I shouldn't say nobody cares. Nobody thinks about it. I'll rephrase that.
Yeah, it's reflex, right? Like, so we went to the dental office growing up, or most of us did go to a dental office, and we got a little goodie bag that had our little sample of Crest or Colgate, or a little toothbrush, and our floss. I mean, that's what it was. So when we became hygienists and we were conditioned in school that we give this little goodie bag away, that's just kind of what it was. We never really thought about it. But what was funny is you talk to any hygienist, and if they forgot to give the goodie bag to their patient gets all upset about it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's more of like they wanted the free stuff. They didn't really care what was inside the goodie bag. And so I think we also didn't really put a lot of emphasis, like you mentioned, on what's actually the contents of that goodie bag. So I'm glad that you brought this one up because it's pretty good.
Well, I guess my issue...
educating the patient with those things.
Yes, and I think because... I mean, not every practice is going to be like this, but I think that if you are trying to do high-end quality dentistry and you take pride in the clinical skills that you're delivering to that patient, they might not have come to your practice because of the dollar toothbrush or the dollar interdental brush that is going to help maintain that quality dentistry, but they might stay there because they're getting something that they wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. You've put thought into every aspect of your practice, even to the things that they're going to take home and and use for the next 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And I think that that's something that is overlooked quite often.
See, it's really nice having the author on for the article that I picked, so we can get a little more clarification on what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, believing that everyone needs to have fluoride. And this is something that I'm really passionate about. Again, I'm glad that you brought this up, but this one isn't one of my top ones. People have opinion on fluoride. What I just don't like is people think that fluoride is the cure-all. You have cavities because you didn't have enough fluoride, and that's just bullcrap, and we all know it. But I feel like people are either undereducated or just don't understand what alternatives are out there. So I'm glad that you wrote on here about what Anne Guion wrote about the 5 fluoride-free products, like we suggested for patients if they're not interested in fluoride. So, anyways, that's a good one. I want you to read that one.
Yeah, because honestly, I think we're brainwashed. I do. I think we're brainwashed for flossing and for fluoride, and we aren't giving our patients solutions. We're giving them arguments, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think I like that. Giving them arguments, not solutions. Anyways, okay, so number 5, this is one of my favorite ones too. Keeping everyone on a 3 or 6 month recall. And you kind of talked a little bit on here about not determining treatment based on what their insurance will pay, and how that's crap because if they come in every 6 months for their 6 month bloody prophy, and then they get no care in between, they're not going to get healthier.
And keep in mind, people, there's no science that says there's, and you just did that scaling the web where it was started by insurance. What was it, Pepsodent or something that started it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, back in, decades ago. There's no science that is insurance driven. So if your patients need something outside of 6 months, that is not wrong. And I think we need to start retraining. It's not going to be easy. It is not. But I think also we need to tell the consumers as much as we possibly can and come together and telling the consumers, because the consumers are actually going to be probably the change makers.
The drivers behind it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think, and part of it is there's a whole movement, it's been around for years, about changing the kind of the lexicon that we use. It's not a cleaning, it's a therapy, or it's a preventive whatever.
Maintenance of some sort or whatever.
Yeah, maintenance. Using the correct terminology, I think will really go far, because I don't have a problem, quote unquote, selling treatment on to a patient that needs it outside of their insurance. If I have the evidence to show them, like give them their perio chart or do this or do that. There's a lot of things that you can do to educate them and have them understand why this is what they need, and help them understand that their insurance isn't going to cover that. But this is what you need to be healthy. And people don't really balk at that, as long as you're being honest and sincere with it.
Yeah.
So
totally agree.
And while you hate this part of it, it's good business.
Oh, yeah.
It's good business to get your patients healthy.
I think so too.
So
I agree. Totally agree. Well.
And that's it.
Right.
That is my Scaling the Web. It's probably your favorite one I've ever given, though. Huh?
Well, at least that's the one I've been the most interactive with. Well, good job. That was a surprise for me.
It's about that time. Grab your blanket and a glass of wine. It's story time with Michelle.
Storytime with Michelle is brought to you by Wine Awesomeness. Wine Awesomeness provides a unique way to explore and enjoy wine through customizable subscription options, with an emphasis on wine discovery. Each delicious monthly shipment is an editorialized adventure through a theme, trend, educational concept, or a part of the wine world. Whether it's a deep dive into overlooked Eastern European wines, a selection of bottles perfect for your backyard barbecues, or a month devoted to showcasing the work of women winemakers, they've got you. Don't forget to use the coupon code TALE, that's TALE, to receive 10% off your order, or just go to our Facebook page and click the sign up button.
So this week with a story time with Michelle, this article is going to come from the Journal of Clinical Periodontology, 2016. Doesn't tell me the month. But this is going to be on periodontal conditions and incidence of new cardiovascular events among patients with coronary vascular disease. And this comes from Reichert, Schultz, Lutz, Seifert. That's a whole bunch of them. Bunch of people. So let's look at the intro here. So in the late 1980s, the first cross-sectional study showing a possible association between poor dental health and acute myocardial infarction was published. In most other cross-sectional and longitudinal studies, a significant association was demonstrated between periodontal disease and cardiovascular disease, independently of already known risk factors. The height of the calculated risk values were depended, among other factors, on the type of study. In cross-sectional case control studies, periodontal disease was often associated with a more than twofold increase for risk for prevalence of CVD, so cardiovascular disease. In contrast, longitudinal cohort studies often measured risk below 1.5. One study showing that the length of the association may be dependent on which periodontal target variables are measured. The overall risk of periodontitis, tooth loss, and gingivitis ranged from 1.24 to 1.35. Dietrich et al. From 2013 pointed out that the association between periodontitis and the incidence of CVD could be stronger in younger individuals and men. In the 26th German National Heart Report, published in 2014, a considerably high mortality from heart attack was shown for the eastern part than the western part of Germany. In central Germany, death as a result of heart attack was particularly high and ranged from 10.1 to 38.1, above the German national average. That's 38.1%. Geez. Interestingly, in the fourth German Dental Health Survey, distinct differences were shown for the prevalence of a severe periodontitis between the western and eastern parts of Germany. Among individuals aged 35 to 44, the overall prevalence was 20.5%. Yeah, 25.5%. 18.9 was from Western Germany and 27.8 from Eastern. That's pretty crazy, right? So prevention of recurrent cardiovascular events among patients who have already suffered from CVD is an important task during cardiac rehabilitation. In the two previous studies, an association between periodontal disease and recurrent cardiovascular events was shown. However, diagnosis and therapy of periodontal disease have not been integrated in cardiac rehabilitation programs in Germany so far. Therefore, the aim of this study was to investigate putative associations between periodontal conditions and the incidence of new cardiovascular events, MI, transient ischemic attacks, cardiovascular death, of stroke, cardiovascular disease or death of stroke among patients with CVD within 3 years after their initial hospitalization. So I'm going to go through to the results, but keep in mind, I did a critical appraisal of this when I was in Sweden, and there is some things in here that they show you there is some statistical significance, but they also they picked and chose their variables to which they ran analysis on, which I think sometimes don't really understand why they're picking and choosing. Like maybe they just chose age, gender, and current smokers and compared that to who was having a heart attack. But they didn't take all those things with history of cardiovascular disease and periodontal disease. Like they pick and chose which things they looked at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Which gives you very different statistics. So you can kind of like make any of your analysis kind of in favor of a lot of things, which really kind of sucks on research. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you're reading literature. So everybody can interpret it their own way, which is kind of stupid. But so be on the lookout for those kind of things when you're reading articles. So in the discussion, data from several epidemiological studies have supported the concept that periodontitis or periodontal conditions are linked to atherosclerosis and subsequent diseases such as cardiovascular disease. The majority of these previous longitudinal studies investigated patient groups without clinical symptoms of atherosclerosis or CVD. However, only little is known about putative links between periodontal conditions, including oral hygiene habits and new cardiovascular events in patients who have already suffered from CVD. Such information could be important for determining whether certain oral hygiene recommendations and diagnosis and therapy of periodontal disease should be regularly integrated into cardiac rehabilitation programs in order to reduce the risk for new events. As main results of our longitudinal cohort study, we found that the bleeding on probing of about 30%, more than 10 missing teeth, brushing teeth less than once a day, and no use of aids of interdental space care were associated with cardiovascular outcomes. Associated with cardiovascular outcomes only after univariate analysis. However, this did not reach statistical significance in a multivariate Cox model. Severe periodontitis was not significantly associated with the combined cardiovascular endpoint according to either univariate or multivariate analysis. Thus, our investigation did not confirm the hypothesis that the periodontal and healthcare conditions are independent risk factors for recurrent cardiovascular events. This is what I'm saying. This is the problem with the study. They did not compare all the variables, in my opinion, in my critical analysis of this. So in contrast, the confounders age, occurrence of peripheral artery disease, or diabetes, and history of CVD events were associated with the incidence of recurrent CVD events. These co-founders have already been well identified in numerous studies. Since periodontal diseases were only significant in univariate survival models, it is obvious that traditional risk factors are more indicative for recurrent CVD events. The results of two previous studies showing an association between periodontal disease and recurrent CVD events could not be confirmed in this study. Differences in the study design might be a possible reason for this. Totally true. For instance, one study investigated only survivors of incidents of myocardial infarction who were much younger, so less than 54 years, than patients in other cohorts. So moreover, there were difference in selections of cofactors and definitions of endpoints. And I think this is really important for us, again, to remember that you can't look at some studies because they don't compare apples and apples sometimes. So they'll say, yes, these two studies didn't prove this and that, but they weren't comparing the same thing. So it's not reasonable to say that. So in the conclusion, bleeding on probing index was 30% more than 10 missing teeth. Frequency of brushing teeth and use of flossing and interdental brushes were only found to be associated with recurrent cardiovascular disease events and univariate survival analysis, but the results did not reach statistical significance after adjusting for already known risk factors. So kind of take this with a grain of salt, because I don't feel it was a fair article. I don't think they were comparing variables properly, and I think in their analysis of other studies, they chose studies that were not truly comparable. Did your brain hurt?
No, I'm just so overwhelmed by how can you even, I don't understand how you can even keep going with all this kind of stuff, and you like to read it, and it's just so...
Well, it's because it's frustrating.
Michelle. Bless you for doing
Isn't it frustrating? Well, I will say, a few weeks ago, I was kind of done with reading research. I was so frustrated because I felt like the more I know, the more I didn't know. Like, the more I read it, the less I actually really do know. And it's very frustrating because I try very hard to keep up to date so that I can have very intelligent conversations with people. And at least if I don't know all of it, I have an idea of what's happening in the research, because I come across so many doctors, so many hygienists that know certain things within their field, and I just want to at least have an intelligent conversation about it. But sometimes the more I read and the more I'm around people that nitpick the shit out of research, the more I'm just like, it hurts my brain, and I get really frustrated, and I have to like step away from it sometimes. But it's a necessary evil, and we all need to understand the research. And even if you don't understand the research, at least you can listen to this and just maybe be enlightened in some areas. Who knows? People might have checked out by now.
Yes.
Like you.
I think I might have been one of them.
Yep, I know. I know.
But we do need it. It's important, and I appreciate that you are that half of the team that cares about that.
And you do the fun scaling the web. We're a team, buddy.
I do. Hey, buy a T-shirt from Michelle.
Yeah, because I have a bunch still. I need to do better
help.
about putting that on Facebook and selling them. We have T-shirts, people.
I feel like we need to do better just in general about that kind of stuff.
Where's our
we have
assistant?
a hard time selling ourselves.
Where's our assistant that we asked for forever ago? People, we have tank tops and T-shirts, and if you're interested, send us a message because I can ship it to you and you can pay me via PayPal or Venmo. And if you don't know Venmo, get Venmo because that thing is awesome. I love Venmo.
Okay, hey, can I actually address one last thing before we wrap up?
Sure, buddy.
And it's not going to be how our listeners need to go onto our Facebook page and like them if they haven't already, or that they need to go on iTunes and rate and review us. It's not going to be that.
Or subscribe. Tell friends to subscribe.
Or subscribe. Yeah. Steal their phone.
Subscribe.
Yep. It's not that. Although, okay, no, I'm not going to get into that little rant. I lost it. I actually forgot.
Are you kidding me? You forgot what you were going to say?
Well, no, okay. No. Okay, now I remember now.
Okay.
I remember now. Okay, did you hear about H-Bay?
I know of H-Bay.
Do you know what H-Bay is?
I know that not everybody's happy with them right now because they were having to pay.
Right. So Linda, I think, is the person's name.
Yeah. People are always annoyed with her,
and she's. Well, yeah, it's because she's trying to charge people to be members of this group or whatever, of this Facebook group called H-Bay. Anyway, there's H-Bay for free. It's another alternative like Facebook page.
Oh, who started that?
So if you guys want to send all your... Elijah, of course.
Of course he did.
Of course.
Oh, Elijah.
So if you guys want to sell all your crap, go to the H-Bay for free. And
have you ever been on there?
Yeah.
Is there stuff good on there to buy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. I mean, I don't really seriously look at it because, like, why would I ever need any of that stuff? But, yeah, because a lot of students sell all their student issue.
I didn't think about that.
People would use them in in the real world. Like, didn't you like their handpieces and stuff?
I thought about looking for a cordless handpiece for mission trips and a piezo or a Cavitron for mission trips that I can just have in my possession. I'll look on there now. I never thought about it.
You should look on there and see what they have.
Thanks for bringing that up, Andrew.
Anytime, buddy old pal.
All right, then. So the next time you hear us will probably be an intro from Chicago Midwinter.
Yeah, so come find us in
If
Chicago.
you're going to be there,
we'll hang out.
yeah, come find us. It'll be fun.
Oh, Smiles at Sea. Go to Smiles at Sea.
Oh, yeah, April. April what, buddy?
April. I don't know. End of April. And, wait, I do know.
29th?
30th? 20. Nope, I don't know. So the end
The
of
last
April.
Friday,
and
Saturday,
then use your
Sunday.
promo code AJ, Andrew Johnston, AJ, for a little bit of a discount. It's not much, but it is something. So if you want a discount.
Way to sell it, buddy.
Use it. Yeah, I know. It's just like, well, I mean, they're going to say, I don't know how much it was, $25 or something like that, but still.
Get something off.
It'll be great.
Awesome.
It's to the Bahamas. It's CE and it's to the Bahamas. So let's just.
Yeah, buddy. Y'all have fun on that. Bye, y'all.
The end.